Welcome back to the third episode of our TV podcast, where we're covering the fourth episode of The Studio. A little bit confusing with the numbers there, but I think at some point it'll make sense once we start covering more than one TV show. Anyway, fourth episode of The Studio, guest stars Olivia Wilde and Zach Efron. It follows Seth Rogen and Ike Barinholtz's character as they search for a missing reel of film on the Olivia Wilde directed movie starring Zach Efron, a fictional movie in the show,
Yeah.
and they have to hunt down this missing reel of film, and it's set to feel and look like a noir film, like the as in the episode of TV is set to
Yeah.
look and feel like a noir film, and it's kind of a mystery. They reference Chinatown among other movies. Uh, let's just start, I guess, with what you thought about it. Did you like the episode?
Not really.
Wow. Okay.
No, like kind of straight up, I was like, I don't know about any of it. It was the first episode where I was like, oh, this is actually like this is a script of a cartoon. Like this is like actually like a Family Guy script.
Uh,
Um, not actually. I mean, I'm being a little rude there. With it's not like it's really like
Family Guy's
reminds me of
not
a lot of Bob's Burgers, but
sure. Family Guy's not bad at what they're doing.
no, that's not even. It's but it's so like I don't know. The whole noir part of it is so silly to me. And this episode is the first one of the four now, right? That
Yeah,
really
commits to something else.
like I where the way it's shot kind of annoyed me because it's
Okay.
like they do a lot of like these like oneers, right? Like these long takes and like
Yeah.
these whip pans and stuff. And it was the first time where it's like there were two shots in here where I was like, "Oh, that is like a hidden like digitally like that's like a hidden cut like digitally stitched together two
Yeah, there was
takes."
one that was like super
Yeah,
obvious
and I was like, "Oh,
that I
it
could
was like it was like, oh,
remember.
that's gross." Like that's like seeing that is
Yeah.
gross, you know. Where I'm like
Okay, that's a
y-
fair complaint.
um but
But
and
did you
also
dislike the look of the show? Like, is that the only thing you disliked, or did you dislike their commitment to it? Like,
the noir like
yeah, like the
I
noir
thought that was
elements of it.
very silly.
Okay.
Well, because I don't know. Let me know what you think about this, right? Where this is doing a very exaggerated parody of something, right?
Okay. Yes.
On paper, without getting into like the specifics, do you think that you would prefer of an episode of TV to be like this, where it's like Seth Rogen being a cartoon character and an exaggerated version of this, like an idiot, or if
Mhm.
it was like the episode just like tried to kind of like do it a little earnestly, like it would be still be silly, but like it's like I don't know.
Okay. So this episode of TV made me think of an episode of a show that you will never watch and that you would not like, that most people don't like. But this particular show is very well liked among its fans. And
Right.
there's an episode in this show that is probably the worst received episode of the entire show. The show that I'm referencing is Ted Lasso. And
Okay.
in Ted Lasso, there is an episode where, completely like disconnected from the plot of the season. I mean, it's related in that it picks up the story from the end of the last episode and ends in a way where you could start the next episode. But it is so distinctly different. Like it's its own episode. Barry does a similar thing that I could remember, where it's just like a bottle episode. It's a bottle episode of Ted Lasso where they recreate After Hours, the Martin Scorsese film, in Ted Lasso. But it's like very silly and super exaggerated, and it's After Hours with a Ted Lasso character among like the London streets at night. And I love that episode of Ted Lasso. It is one of my favorite
Okay.
episodes of Ted Lasso. It is, I think, the lowest rated episode of the show, not including the final season where
The show just got
like
worse.
the show just got worse. But in the
Yeah.
first two seasons, I'm pretty sure it's the lowest rated episode of the show. Um, and so I really like when shows do that. I think the committing this hard to the bit and having him like do the voiceovers where he's talking into the phone and like making it dark and black and white and like all of this stuff. Like I think that stuff is really charming. I like when shows do that because every other episode of this show has been they're all like kind of bottle episodes, but they're very similar. And I was
Hmm.
waiting for them to just do something totally different. And so, in the same way that the third episode won you over, I last week I was like, I don't know how much longer I could really enjoy this. And then I watched this episode last night and I was like, okay, I could probably enjoy this for a while. If they're this committed to making these bottle episodes
I see.
like the bit like this. Like it
Yeah.
is and yeah, so I think to answer your question, I do prefer if it's funny like that because it's the show. Like
Hmm.
the show is just like for me first and foremost a comedy. Like I would be if it was just super earnest, I would be like I don't know if
No,
I
yeah, I don't
care.
know. I guess like I'm having a hard time conceptualizing what I mean, but there's a way that it goes about its parodying of noir that
Yeah. Well, it
that
felt like they were kind of doing it's funny because the movie that I would draw the closest comparison to is not a classic noir film. It felt to me like a movie that I don't know, I'm pretty sure you don't like this movie, or at least a lot of people I know who have similar taste to you do not like this movie. The Nice Guys, that's what it felt like. It felt like they were making The Nice Guys into an episode of TV and not quite doing like Chinatown or some old noir film. It felt like they were doing
I don't know.
like a Shane Black episode of TV.
Shane
Um,
Black episode of TV. That does not sound good.
okay, well, okay, I shouldn't say Shane Black because I've not liked Shane Black elsewhere. I just mean it just felt like they were doing the
Yeah,
nice guys
yeah, the nice guys.
in TV.
I guess I don't know. I don't know actually if I agree with that read entirely, but I don't know. It's interesting.
That's what I felt like in terms of like the comedy. I mean, it's not the nice guys is like a little bit more I don't know, over the top even than this is, I guess. But I don't know. That's just what because it was like a mix of like we're imitating classic noir films and also modern comedy sensibilities, like modern comedic sensibilities. And
Right.
that's the only like real example of something like that that I could think of off the top of my head. I'm sure there are other examples, but that's what I felt like I was watching. Um and I like that. Like I think
Hmm.
that the shows like they have very clearly nailed down in 4 episodes now the style and tone of the show, and I think this is to me my favorite mix of like the tone that they're going for and like it actually being funny. I think every episode has been funny, like I've said on previous podcast episodes we've done,
You know
but
what's another thing that I dislike about this episode?
oh gosh, if you're gonna say something that's really gonna hurt my feelings, then
Um, I don't know. How do we feel about Olivia Wilde
oh
as an
okay, thank
actress?
God, thank God,
No,
okay.
not Zac Efron. I wasn't.
I was I was about to say, and we'll get to it in a second. Zac Efron, I
He's
think
just a funny. Like he's just a
one
really
of the
funny guy.
greatest living comedic actors, like in that mold that he does, which is like the hot kind of like super stereotypical hot guy who like you thought was going to have a certain career, and then turns out he just like wants to make a bunch of stupid comedies. Like him and Channing Tatum have kind of in my brain cornered the market on that type of guy.
It feels
Olivia
like
Wilde,
everybody's doing kind of like SNL acting almost.
yeah,
You know
Olivia
what I
Wilde,
mean?
not like my favorite in this episode. I think, I mean, she's not really. I have no problem with her
Is
until we
Olivia
really
Wilde a
get
good
to,
actress?
uh, you know, she's
You
what's
know what
what's the
I
best
mean?
movie she's been in? I mean, no, I feel like she used to
I
be
watched a
right.
lot of House MD, and it's like she's fine in House MD, but that was also 20 years ago. You know, like
Yeah. Okay. I mean, her letterboxed page is bleak. Um, the like the two good movies on her letterbox page are I think like at least at the top of her letterbox page in terms of popularity are like her and Babylon, where she is like a
a cameo,
you know
the
yeah she's not
the greatest
in
cameo of all time,
yeah
award
she's not
winning.
in a very big role in either of those movies though. I mean some of these other movies are good. Richard Jewell's a solid movie. I don't even remember her being in it. I say, You
It's
know, I
just
don't
she's
know.
doing some
She's in
real
Tron
like
Legacy.
she's
Yeah.
doing some
Uh,
real acting like a crazy person acting. But she doesn't have the energy for it though. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe I'm being
yeah,
rude.
no, that's kind of
Maybe we're both incredibly terrible, awful misogynists. You know? Maybe that's just
that's
what's
one
going
read
on
of the
here.
podcast, I'm sure.
Maybe we both just
What
really
I was
hate
going
women.
No, I don't think that's true though, because I could like I could see what you're saying. I don't think she like stuck out to me this episode
I
as
thought
like,
she was
oh, that's
so bad. I thought she was
so
so
bad.
bad.
I don't The only thing I didn't like was her at like the end of the
Well,
episode.
that's what I was thinking. Like at
Yeah,
the
when
end when
she
they
shows
confront
up,
her, it's like she is like
yeah.
it's like
No,
you
she's
know.
doing like she's acting in the wrong show.
Well, it's
Um
also granted. I think part of it is also they're directing her in a certain way too, which is like kind of enabling her to do that. And
yeah.
I'm just like it's like I don't know,
Well,
man. I just think it's bad.
what I thought initially was like I thought it was like at least kind of because didn't Olivia Wilde has had like quite a bit of controversy surrounding her, right? In terms of
Yeah, like
like
the Harry
personality, not
Styles.
like yeah, but like not
Yeah,
like not like she did anything like egregiously like evil, just
she
that
didn't
like
like break the law.
no,
She's
but
not a
like people
criminal.
just like yeah, people have just like given her shit about her personal life.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was funny-ish that they made her the villain of the episode.
Well,
Like
and
I thought playing
they were
into that
like
was
it's like
funny.
Zac Efron being like, no, everybody fucking hates her. Like
Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant. So I was like, they kind of played into that persona a little bit, which I thought was silly. And I think part of this is even like some of the stuff I like about the show so far is how cool guest cast members are with accepting their roles. Where like Nicholas Stoller, the director we've talked about a couple times in one of the previous episodes, like he was just cool with them being like, that guy can't direct. Like we need to get what's his name? Like we need to get Ron Howard or whoever the fuck they said.
yeah.
And like same thing with Olivia Wilde, where that it's just like a bunch of people being like, yeah, we hate her, and she was just like cool with being in the episode. Like I do think it's fun that the people who they are getting to be in the episodes are like super game for playing any character like that is their real self, like they're playing themselves and they're fine with uh getting shit on if that's the character that they have to play. So I think that's neat, but like yeah, I agree, she's not the problem is that like she only shows up for that final scene and it's not really enough to turn me off of the episode. Because she's
She's
fine
at
up
the
until that
beginning
point, yeah, but like
too,
in the
acting
beginning
so
she's not like
weird.
I don't think she's acting that way. I think in the beginning she's just like doing the bit, like it's fine. I There's nothing about her in her earlier scene that stood out to me as like distracting, I guess. I don't know. I get if that's how you feel. I don't know.
I guess that is how I feel. Granted, I will say this though, the episode's like it's like entertaining, but this was the episode that really hit me where I was like, oh, this is kind of just slop, bro. And I was like, I don't
Yeah.
know. This
But it's
fucking
like slop in like the way, but it's I think it's still slop in the way that you described last week, where it's like
it
slop
is.
for
Yeah.
us. Like
Yeah,
it's
it is.
like
It is. It is.
and I think this episode plays into that super well, where it's like this is uh I don't know.
I
It's
think
neat because we're getting into territory that is for a specific audience. I think even more so now because it's like I don't know. It's fun that they're like not worried about capturing a certain audience in that it's like a comedy show, but also
it's pretty broad comedy.
yeah, but it's also like how many young people care about film noir? Like they're not really worried about capturing that audience as much as they are
But
like
the film noir parody is broad enough for like
sure,
kind of
yeah,
anybody to pick
it's
up
not like a
on.
specific movie. It's
Yeah.
like it's fair. Yeah, I guess it's so general that like all you have to know. I mean, you don't even really need to know that what film noir is. You could literally
You
just
just
like
kind of get
assume
like,
it's an
oh, they're
old
doing an
movie.
old-timey movie thing, you
Yeah,
know?
I guess that's true. But that's also good. It's like good that you can make it entertaining for us and still broadly entertaining for everybody else at the same time. It's like a good in joke. It's like an in joke in the same way that when parents go to a kids movie, they throw a couple ones at you just so you could like have a good time, you know?
There's some new characterization in this one. So a couple episodes ago we kind of talked about how like I keep bringing up Bob's Burgers just because I like that show so much. And this is like pretty similar to Bob's Burgers in some ways in terms of this broad comedy and stuff. Um, we were talking about how each character kind of like needs to have their moments, for us to
Yeah,
be a little bit more invested.
yeah. And there's a
This,
couple characters just left out here that aren't in the
yeah,
episode.
just aren't in the episodes at all. But like
Yeah.
Sal,
Mhm.
uh, this is kind of his episode, I think.
Yeah, I mean, unless he
Like
gets an even bigger one,
right,
but
yeah,
yeah.
but he has some real
I do have a
moments.
fun fact about this episode that makes it an even more Sal episode, which is that early in the episode, Seth Rogen is watching cuts of a film
Hmm.
in like projected in a theater,
Yeah.
and the film projectionist is played by Alan Barinholtz, who is Ike Barinholtz's dad in real
Oh,
life. So he got
wait,
his
that's so
dad to play the
cute.
film projectionist. He has only been in like a small number of roles. His most notable one, he's a real life attorney. And so in that show that came out, I'm sure you remember it, Jury Duty, where they like fake the guy being in the he plays the judge in Jury Duty.
Okay.
Um, and then he also is in this episode as a film
As the film
projectionist.
projectionist.
Yeah,
That I
which is
do
funny.
that first scene is very funny though, because it's like Seth. I don't know. Seth Rogen I thought was just kind of annoying. I don't know why I thought he was kind of annoying this one and not in the other ones, but Seth
Well,
Rogen
he's
is
also kind of made to look like annoying in this one because they're like the ongoing bit is that all the people also don't like him. Like he didn't
yeah,
want to pay
everybody
for the
hates
after
him.
party, and like Zac Efron doesn't fuck with him, and they all love Ike Barinholtz.
Yeah. Well, that's what I
So
mean, where it's like this is like Sal's episode because it kind of like we get some more characterization where it's like, oh, everybody thinks that Seth Rogen is fucking annoying and dumb and they don't like him. Whereas Sal, it's kind of
yeah, he's like
cool and
the
Sal's like cool with
likable,
people.
approachable
Yeah.
guy at the studio. Yeah,
Because from the previous episodes, you just kind of pick up that it's like he
it could have been his job,
yeah, it could have been his job, and that Sal's
and he's
also
just like the
like
right hand guy.
kind of like a jealous asshole. And like
Sure.
there's a little bit of the second episode where it's like he's more self-aware than Seth Rogen is. Like he knows how to act on a set a little bit
Yeah.
more appropriately, but outside of that, there's not a lot going on.
Yeah.
Um uh but yeah, so that I think that's notable for this episode that kind of
Yeah, I
sticks
wonder
out.
if they're gonna do more episodes like this where it is just Seth Rogen with one of the characters, or if it's just because Ike Barinholtz is the other guy who would be there in an episode like this. Like, I don't know if they have a scenario where like Catherine Hahn makes sense as like the only other person in the episode, but I'm sure they do.
They do for sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I don't know if they will, but like there is like
Yeah.
it's like not
You could make
difficult
up a
that they
scenario
yeah
where there's a more
yeah
yeah, of course. Yeah. Um, I don't know. Yeah, I do want to talk about Zac Efron a little bit because we mentioned Olivia Wilde. I think Zac Efron, yeah, and that's again, this is one of those things where like personal bias just can't like has to be factored in. Where it's just like Zac Efron shows up in an episode of TV and like I'm going to like it. Like it's going to be if Zac Efron wasn't in this episode and you replaced him with like, and this is not like a knock on acting quality at all, but let's say we just like flipped last episode and we put Zac Efron in the last episode and Anthony Mackie in this one, this wouldn't be my favorite episode.
oh my god.
But I just like Zac Efron is so funny. Like I love him. Like I don't it's I feel such an attachment to him. I think he's genuinely like one of the great like hot guy comedic actors of our moment of at least like the last 20 years or whatever. I don't know. I think he's like incredibly funny, and he shows up in the episode, and he doesn't even really like have a ton to work with, but even him just being like, oh yeah, fuck, like it's like he's like they show up to the party, and Seth Rogen is like, they're like they tell him that they're looking for the real or whatever,
Hmm.
and Zac Efron's just like they tell him that they kept it a secret because they didn't want Seth Rogen to show up to the after party. They only wanted Ike Barinholtz to be there. And then
Yeah.
he's like, well, now you're here, so you might as well just stay. he's like, yeah, no, don't worry about it. But like the
No, I
way
thought
he
that was
delivers
so
it is
funny.
so
Yeah.
funny. Like he's got such good delivery. I don't know. I really he charms me. I don't know. And he shows he walks back into the trailer for like a he's like he shows back up because he's wearing like the wrong he's like I didn't know my feet were gonna be in the shot or something.
He said I'm
It's
wearing my
fucking
hero
stupid.
socks.
Yeah, it's fucking stupid, but like I don't know. I really appreciate him being in the episode. I don't know. That's it. And again, it's not to say that like I wouldn't still really like this episode. I think that's like the cherry on top is that they got an actor who I really like for the episode that really appeals to me. Did you okay? And this is I probably know the answer to this because I feel the same way, but like as a mystery, you knew who it was going to be right away, right? Or did you not have any idea?
No, I didn't really. I mean, I knew from like a narrative writing standpoint that it wasn't Zac Efron, right? Um, but but then also I was thinking about it and I was like, it doesn't even make sense for Olivia Wilde to steal it because they established like almost immediately that like the movie's just canceled if they lost the film of real, because it's like
Yeah,
they kind of like they really heavily say like they basically just say it's like, oh, we can't do these reshoots for like the most expensive set piece in the movie. um
right.
so I was like, it doesn't even make sense for her to steal it then, because if they can't reshoot it, unless she's just trying to like cancel the movie, which also like doesn't really make sense. But then it's like, oh no, they do, spoiler, she does steal it because she wants to do a reshoot to make it bigger, and they just do let her do that.
Yeah, I mean,
It's very silly. It's very silly.
it's like dumb logic, but also I don't know. I think the problem with something like this, as opposed to maybe a feature length noir film, is that you can only introduce so many people, and so it was just always going to be either Zac Efron or Olivia Wilde. Like I really doubt they would make it like a character who shows up and says one line. So I just kind of assumed 5 minutes into the episode that it was Olivia Wilde, uh,
Well,
and I followed that the whole way. I was just like, oh, it's obviously going to be Olivia Wilde. And then when it was, I was just like, okay, yeah. I mean, I expected that, but
I
it
thought it
doesn't.
was so funny at the end when they confront Olivia Wilde, right? And it's kind of the joke is set up for them to be wrong and Olivia Wilde to be like, you're insane, and they're actually, because they seemed so insane. But no,
Yeah,
it was like a subverse joke where it's like, oh no, they did look insane, and she's like, you're insane, but then like they were just right. They
yeah,
were just completely right, in their
yeah,
insanity.
yeah. Which is tough. I mean, I don't know. I like it. I like this
Yeah, no, it's
episode
silly. It's
quite a
silly.
bit.
It's silly.
I
Yeah.
I think I think all of the decisions, like comedically, are funny. I think that yeah. I don't know. I think this is the because to me, what it kind of feels like is when we were talking about the second episode of the show, which I also liked more than you. You were kind of like, oh, it's very much like the idea in their head was we have a great episode of television. Like this is like a real like TV episode of TV where like they had the bookend and they were like, this is the idea and it's going to go like this and it works.
Right.
And that is like what this episode also feels like to me. Like it felt like they were like, oh, we have
Mm.
a great idea, like we're gonna make it like a noir film, and but it's
It'll be
gonna
about a
be this.
director trying to steal their
Yeah,
own reel,
exactly.
and yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and so like to me, it's like they did what they did in the second episode, but with an actor I like even more, and with like 100% more commitment to like the setup and the style of like an episode, because I do like that. I don't know. I'm we'll see where the rest of the season goes, but it is the most like distinctly different episode. Like, and so I wonder if they're gonna do that where like they have like and I don't know which directions they might go in, but it's like I'd be curious to see if they do stuff like that. Like if they're just like, oh, this episode is just like a rom com, and then and then there's just like it's like very standard like rom com tropes, and then it ends with like some romantic moment between whatever characters, and just like weaving in storylines to make it feel a lot like that. Because as fun as like the oneer idea was and stuff like that, I think this is really the kind of thing where they could knock it out of the park for me, where it's like committing to like a genre or like a subgenre and making the episode like feel entirely like its own little movie as an episode of TV, and like
Dude,
really committing to a tone.
they need to do a Zack Snyder thing. They need to do like a slow motion, like,
Oh, like
right,
yeah, like
like
fight
muted
scene things.
colored,
Yeah.
like
No, yeah, that's what I mean. But I would like that a lot.
that would be
I don't know if
so
they're actually going to
funny.
do
That
that,
would
but
be
that's what I
so
mean. Like
funny.
I think if they go further in this direction, where like every episode is super committed to a very specific tone, as opposed to like broadly just being committed to like this is how movies are made and like this is what the film industry is. Like if they just like really commit to like, oh, this is like these types of movies, I think that's pretty fun. Like that is, I don't know. I think that's ideal to me. But again, I don't know if I'm assuming they want to strike a balance and probably can't go like what they did last night. I don't think that they could do that every week for the rest of the season. Obviously, this feels like more of a bottle episode.
I think this, what I'm realizing here is the part of the series that I think is more interesting is when they're in like business rooms, like
Uh huh.
boardrooms, and like in meetings and stuff, and kind of freaking out about like business stuff, rather
Yeah.
than when they're on film sets.
Okay, but do you like? But okay, but the thing
You know what I
is
mean?
like, yeah, I get what you mean. But do you like it because it's like a behind the scenes of what it's like at a Hollywood studio, or do you like it because you think it's funnier? You know what I mean? Because it's like, because for example, and I've talked about this before, but when I was younger, I loved watching Entourage, and specifically why I reference Entourage so much is because a lot of people in Hollywood, at least at the time, I don't know how they talk about it now because it's a little bit dated, but like a lot of people were like, "Oh, Entourage is the most accurate depiction of what life in Hollywood is like that I've seen in a movie or TV show." Like a lot of people were on the record being like, "This is as close as somebody's gotten to that." And so when I was watching the show as a high schooler who wanted to work in Hollywood, I was like, "Oh, this is like I'm getting a behind the scenes to what it looks like in Hollywood." But the studio is so exaggerated that I'm like,
Yeah.
are you saying that you like it because of the interact like the business interactions, or just because you think that they're funnier than the stuff on set?
I think that the business interactions are more interesting situations for me maybe on TV.
Okay.
Like in the first episode, like him just sitting down with a director, like him sitting down with the director, I forget his name, but we've mentioned him every episode, that pitches the Kool-Aid movie. It's like
Yeah,
that's such a
Nicholas Stoller.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes. That is such a funny idea to me, where it's like, yeah, okay, pitch me a Kool-Aid movie. And then you're
Yeah.
just like, you know what I mean? Like,
Dude, I'm telling you, I think Entourage could win you over. I think you
maybe.
might like Entourage.
Perhaps.
I mean, the
Perhaps
humor
Entourage is
is
something I
very
would like.
dated. Like they're saying like slurs and stuff, and like there's that a lot of it is not aged super appropriately. But like the Hollywood stuff, like and the scenarios that come up in that show, I feel like I could sell you on it pretty easily. There's like, I mean, I've already kind of told you about stuff where they like have a, they had a, what was the uh, who's the director you really like that I said they mentioned in Entourage?
I don't know.
Um, oh
I
fuck.
don't
Oh,
know.
this is so bad to not remember live on the pod. But there's an episode where there was like, it was such a niche pick for them to put in like a Hollywood show that I was like, why did they do that? But there's just like a whole episode about him wanting to work with someone. It's a, I don't know if it's a, uh I don't know. Now I'm gonna forget. It's not important. But anyway, the point is, I think you might be into that kind of thing and some of the scenarios that show up there. I agree though. I mean, I think maybe Entourage's existence is what holds me back from caring as much about that stuff because I've seen so many of those scenarios depicted in 8 seasons worth of television on Entourage like 9 times over.
Right.
But the approach to comedy is so much different than Entourage because it's not just like dudes having sex and partying and like being stupid. It's like Hollywood studio exec being stupid and like putting himself in ridiculous and it's like more cartoony, which is fun. I don't know. It definitely, yeah, it definitely appeals to my taste. I don't know. Yeah, I guess we're just wait, is this your least favorite episode? Just off the top of your head. You don't have to give it too much thought.
Maybe.
But
Yeah, probably.
okay. And I think this is my favorite.
Yeah.
And then my second favorite is probably your second least favorite.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
we are kind of backwards, I
We are
guess.
we are backwards here.
Okay, this is interesting. This is a
This
good
is
dynamic
interesting.
moving
Yeah.
forward. We're gonna see. I wonder where we'll fall. We should commit now to like rating the season at the end,
Okay.
like
Like
out of 10,
like out of
and then
10.
kind of see where we fall
Okay.
out of 10 at the end of the season.
Yeah, we could do that. I am
Nice.
interested. We're almost halfway through now. 4
Yeah,
episodes
one
in.
more next week. Next week we'll be at the
Th-
halfway point.
yeah.
Um,
I wonder if there's going to be like a huge. Well, we already kind of talked about like it might end with him getting fired, right? That like
yeah,
seems like a
I've
logical
also yeah,
endpoint.
I've talked about this with a couple people, and I'm like, it makes it makes sense. And originally, I was like, oh, that makes sense, but I would it make sense in terms of continuing the show after season one?
It could be like a
And then
cliffhanger thing,
it could be a cliffhanger. It could also be, is this show gonna get a season?
right?
It's like it's an Apple TV show catering to a much smaller audience than Severance or whatever else is on Apple TV. I'm like, are we sure that a second season is happening? I don't know. I don't know. I wonder how many people they're gonna win up because they haven't like confirmed it yet. But and we're in such a bubble where we exist already on film Twitter. So obviously, film Twitter is going to be more inclined
I
to
think,
talk about a TV show that has to do with the film industry. So it's like,
yeah,
is the show going to do well enough for there to be a second season? I don't know because if not, I mean, obviously this is like pre-recorded, so they can't determine this. But it's like if they're in their head, they were like, oh yeah, it's probably just not going to get a second season. Like we're just kind of doing this for the one season. Then maybe they do just fire him at the end of it. I don't know.
I don't know
I feel like
either.
it will get a second season though. If I was guessing, I'd assume it gets a second season
Well, it's also like they could fire him and then just put him in different
in a different
scenarios.
studio. Yeah.
Yeah, or not even
Or even just like in
or it's like
a
in second
lesser
season he's
role.
just not. Yeah, second season he's not
Yeah.
a studio hit anymore. You know, and now
Yeah, that'd be
there's,
interesting.
now the dynamics are different for the new season.
Yeah. I wonder if you change the name at that point, you know? It's like like he gets demoted to like well, because it's like I
It's
guess
he
he's still
still
working
works in
at a
a studio.
studio.
Yeah,
Sure, yeah, but it's like I don't know. The idea is that like he's the head of the studio. Like it's like the studio and he's the head of it. If he's just like working at a studio as like in a much smaller position, I don't know. You know? It's more about him than it is about the studio at that point. That's a conversation for season 2.
when is Bryan Cranston gonna come back?
I don't know. I wonder if it no, I mean, he's gonna have to be looming over at some point. I feel like episode 6, 7, 8, that area, you know, he's gonna pop in and be like,
Do we think we're gonna
"You're
get
on the hot seat."
a multi episode arc here? Like maybe a part one,
I
part
think
two
I
er?
think they're going to tie in things gradually. Like I think that this episode, like I said, is more than likely like an early bottle episode, and then
Hmm.
episode 5 next week is gonna like tie a little bit more in from episode 3, like where it's
But
like they're just gonna skip over the events of episode 4,
are there going to
and
be
then
any cliffhangers though? Do we
what do
think
you mean?
any
Like at
like
the end of the season?
no like at the end of an episode where it's like the episode ends and you're like, oh wait, what
Oh,
happened
and you're gonna be
next?
like worrying about what happens next week.
Yeah,
I don't know. I want it's so weird because it's like I don't know how much they're gonna
I don't
want
know
to
either. We'll
stray
see.
from their
I'm
formula.
gonna say probably not,
Yeah, I feel
but
like no, because it's so because their formula already is like every episode is different. So then to be like every episode is different, but then also at this point in the season, the episodes matter, like the story matters, and then at this point in the season, it doesn't matter. I don't know. It's yeah, that's difficult.
do
But
you know what director is in part next week's episode?
no, but are you gonna tell me?
I can if you'd like me to.
I would like to. Yeah.
The director of Smile.
Oh, Parker Finn?
Yes, Parker
Is that his
Finn.
name?
Yep.
Yeah. Shout out. Wait,
Yeah.
that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like I feel like it's fun to do because they already are I don't know, they've already kind of made a commitment to doing directors who are like they did Scorsese obviously and they did Ron Howard, but then the other directors are people with significantly less work under their belt than those two guys.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if it's almost like it's not a big enough show or and people don't care enough about directors by name for this to be the case. But it is kind of like a showcase to be like, oh, you should care about this person. You know, they
Yeah.
did
It's like
this
this
thing.
is a notable person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is cool. And it's also like interesting to see the perspective because the perspective is that this is what this is like what Hollywood's perspective is on this person. Where it's like when we talk on the podcast on the movie version of our podcast, we kind of do nothing really but joke about Parker Finn. I mean, all he's done is make two Smile movies, you know?
Yes.
But it's
And
like,
he's
but
making
two
the
Smile movies,
Possession remake.
yeah, but like two Smile movies have made, hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And so from a studio perspective, they're like, oh yeah, this guy's like a hot thing, like we
Yeah.
need to worry about this guy. So it's interesting. The shift in perspective for a show like this to talk about Parker Finn, however they'll talk about him next week, and whoever else, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's cool. Anyway, we'll talk about that next week when we talk about episode 5. That's all for now. We will see you later. Bye.
Bye.